Hello!
Welcome back
to episode 4 of the Spooky Scary Podcast.
I'm Kath.
And I'm Chris. This episode, we're going to be talking about missing people who may or may not have been found, as I learned a few days ago.
There was some issues where I did missing people who have been found, but Chris did missing people who
have not been found.
So
I thought that would be spookier, so I made sure they wouldn't be found.
I have been, you know how sometimes you're on YouTube in the middle of the night and you just find yourself falling down this rabbit hole of weird documentaries?
Oh yeah, 100%.
My story is it's not my story, but the story I'm going to tell is, I fell down a rabbit hole years ago and I watched this documentary, and for some reason ever since then it's just been in my brain, and I've had a little tiny obsession with it.
Good. Obsessions are good.
Yeah. Am I going first?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. So I'll just segue right in. I, for some reason, have always been very fascinated, morbidly fascinated. You know how sometimes things that are really awful and horrible, but you're interested in it?
Mm-hmm.
I've been morbidly fascinated with people who get abducted and held captive. Because that just sounds so terrifying, you know?
I'm sorry.
No, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do.
And there's so many, stories where this person goes missing and everybody assumes they're dead, and then, 10 years later, they come back and they're yeah, I was held captive in a basement for a decade. And it's just that's fucking insane. I don't know if you've seen the movie Room.
I have, yes. Love Brie Larson. Love Brie Larson. This is the Brie Larson fan club.
I love Brie Larson. But, imagine overcoming such adversity of being kidnapped for a decade and then becoming Captain Marvel.
Honestly, yeah. That's literally what happened.
But, that movie's fucking, crazy. The whole time I was watching it, my heart was, beating so fast. And that's how I feel with these, held captive stories. Anyway. So I'll move right in.
That little tangent. I'm doing the story of Room.
I'm doing the fictional story of Room.
It's a book.
It's a book, but it's a fictional book.
I thought it was based on true story. Sorry, continue.
I'm reading it right now, but it's good. Anyway, this story is similar to Room, actually, a little bit. But
good.
Honestly, I think it's even worse. It's terrifying.
Love that.
And you actually might remember it, because...
were we alive for it?
We were. You know how there wasn't that thing in the early 2000s where videos of funny news interviews would go viral?
Yeah.
There was a guy named Charles Ramsey. You might not remember the video. You know the intro to Kimmy Schmidt that's
yeah,
females are strong as hell? That guy's that joke was inspired by this guy.
Is it the hide your kids, hide your wife thing?
It was him, but also this guy named Charles Ramsey who was who I'll get to at the end of this. Just keep the name Charles Ramsey in your brain.
Like Gordon Ramsay, but with Charles.
Yes. Anyway, so I'll first introduce you. This is the story of the Ariel Castro kidnappings.
Good.
Ariel Castro was born in Puerto Rico in 1960, but he moved to Ohio as a child. He was a local musician. He was really involved in the community. And after graduating high school, he and his girlfriend moved into a house on Seymour Avenue. But a year later, Castro was charged with domestic abuse for beating his wife.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
No, I get it. It's this picturesque story, and then but then he beat his wife. So he was charged with domestic abuse. He threw her down the stairs, and he beat her up a whole lot, and then he caused a blood clot that resulted in an inoperable brain tumor.
Oh my god.
On top of that, he was never indicted. He never went to jail for any of this. But she got custody of their 4 children.
Good. I mean, that's, that small victories, I guess.
Yeah, but he kept the house. And also, just giving you some background on him, he had been a public school bus driver, but he was fired for bad judgment, including illegal driving, just leaving kids on the bus while he, went and got lunch,
This is literally me. I'm sorry.
Except you're hopefully not a domestic abuser or a kidnapper.
No, but I do drive really bad.
But you're not a bus driver. So.
Not yet. The doctor's not... I mean, if being a doctor doesn't work, I just figured I'd drive a school bus.
I think it's actually pretty, rigorous. You have to get, your commercial driver's license.
I mean, yeah, but I don't have anything better to do.
You just said you're a bad driver. Are
They
you
don't
going to
know
pass
that.
the commercial driver's license test?
Yeah, I can drive good if I need to.
Okay.
Why would I need to when I'm with my friends?
Stay tuned for Chris becoming a school bus driver.
Please not. I want to be a doctor.
Anyway, so his first victim was a woman named Michelle Knight. She was 21 years old at the time that she was kidnapped.
Good.
And she had a kind of difficult life. She had her family, but it was a small family, and she had actually been raped in school, and she had a son who was taken into foster care. So he was 2 years old at this time, and she was actually scheduled to appear in court on August 23rd, 2002, but she never made it to court. She was last seen walking home from her cousin's house when she disappeared. Her family continued looking for her, but the police really didn't put any resources into finding her because they assumed that she ran away.
Right.
And the fact that it was the day of her custody court case just like reaffirmed that fact that
she just ditched town because she didn't want to face consequences.
Yeah, and she had like a fight with her mom the night before about whether she should be able to have her son or not, basically.
So she was like, they were just like, she was like, fuck it, gotta go.
Yeah, and she was 21, so she wasn't a minor. So they assumed she just skipped town and was like,
and
bye, y'all.
They have no, legal reason to look for her.
Yeah, and they took her off the missing persons list 15 months after her disappearance.
Shit.
Yeah. So 8 months later, in April...
8 months after the 15, after being gone for 15 months? Or
after Michelle was gone for 18 months.
Okay.
For 8 months. Michelle had been gone for 8 months. So it's April of 2003. Amanda Berry, who is probably the more famous name from this case. So a girl named Amanda Berry, it was the day before her 17th birthday, and she had been working at Burger King and was walking home after her shift. It was about 8 p.m., and she called her sister for a ride, but her sister couldn't give her a ride, so she was like, okay, I'm going to get a ride home. Or what happened was she was walking home, and her coworker's dad had pulled up, and I don't know if she called or texted, but she contacted her sister and said, I'm getting a ride home from my coworker's dad.
Yeah.
And then nobody ever saw her again. So what had happened was Ariel Castro had pulled up and had been talking to her and being like, oh, my son works in the Burger King, and they talked a little bit, and he was kind of a familiar face because everybody sort of knew each other a little bit. So he offered her a ride home, and she got in the car. The difference between her and Michelle was that she had a shit ton of media presence because she was 16. Well, she just turned 17. And it was weird, why would you run away the day before your birthday?
Yeah. She had no reason to be running away. She was...
Yeah, she had told her sister that she was on her way home, so people were like, oh, she was kidnapped.
Right.
And there was a shit ton of media presence. It was on the news constantly. And
Is
then...
this a story based off of Kimmy Schmidt? Are these the mole women?
No. But... so then...
Do they get found in an underground bunker?
A year after this, so Michelle has been gone for almost 2 years at this point. Amanda's been gone for a year. Mm-hmm. There's a 14-year-old girl named Gina De Jesus.
It's the mole women.
So Gina's 14, and she's walking home from her middle school with Ariel Castro's daughter, who, if you remember, he lost custody of his 4 kids a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he's walking... Gina is best friends with his daughter. They're walking home, and they stop at a payphone because they're calling her friend's mom to ask if they can have a sleepover. The mom says no, so they basically go opposite directions down the street away from the payphone. This is about 3 p.m., and then nobody ever saw her again other than her friend. Mm-hmm. And this disappearance was linked to Amanda Berry because they basically went missing on the exact same street. Michelle only went missing a couple streets over, but again, they didn't really link her.
They didn't care about her.
They didn't really care about her. And this is even more so they know she's missing because she had, just seen her friend. She was walking home from school, and she was 14. So, the younger you are, the less likely it is that you're, just bye. So what had happened was, after she had walked away from her friend, who was Castro's daughter, Castro actually drove up on the street and was like, hey, I'm looking for my daughter. She was supposed to come to my house after school, not her mom's. And, I mean, Gina probably didn't know the custody
family
situation.
dynamic. Yeah.
So she was like, oh, I know where she is. She's right up that street. We just said bye. And Ariel was like, can you come help me find her? So she was like, okay. And she got in the car. So that was about 2 years after Michelle was kidnapped. And so when Michelle was first kidnapped, she was immediately brought down to the basement, hung up by her arms and her legs, and left there for 3 days with no food.
Jesus.
Yeah. So for the beginning of the time that they were kidnapped, they were all locked in the basement, and he basically was doing, like, very aggressive torture techniques. And psychologists were saying that he was basically trying to, set in Stockholm Syndrome to be, like,
oh my God.
They're starving, they're, like, in pain, but, like, he brings them the food, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So after a couple of years, once he felt like he had control over them, he moved them all upstairs and put them in a separate bedroom with the door locked from the outside. He basically gave them all, like, a plastic bucket to use as a bathroom, gave them 1 meal a day, and wouldn't let them shower.
Jesus.
And he got Michelle a pet dog and then killed it in front of her. And he would do, like, really fucked up stuff. Like, he would, like, pretend to leave doors unlocked to see if they would try to escape. And then he would, like, wait right outside the unlocked door. And if they opened it or tried to come out, he would, like, beat them up or starve them or something to, like, basically condition them so they wouldn't
try to escape.
And he would do stuff like psychological torture. He would, especially with the younger two girls, Amanda and Gina, they had a lot of media presence around their disappearance, like, even for years after.
Right.
So he would make them watch their families, like, on TV, like, asking them to come home and stuff. And there was no media presence for Michelle, and he would use that to, like, be like, nobody's looking for you, shit like that.
Oh my God.
She wrote, like, 2 books about it. I didn't read the second one, but I read, like, parts of the first one, and it's, like, so fucked up. I'm, like, barely going into detail about, like, the shit he did. And he would do other fucked up shit. Like, he was leading prayers and, like, participating in search parties, and, like, he would, like, lead talks at, like, their candlelight vigils and
oh
shit
my
like
God.
that. Like, you know how they would do, like, oh, it's been 1 year, there's a candlelight vigil? He would, like, go and, like, play music or lead a prayer or something.
So he's just a terrible fucking person.
Yeah. And he became friends with, like, the families, basically. And so there was also a sexual component to the kidnapping, so he would rape them frequently, basically. And he impregnated Michelle, she said, up to 5 times, and every time she got pregnant, he would basically beat her, kick her down the stairs.
Oh
and,
my God!
Force her to
I
miscarry.
hate this man.
Yeah, no, he's a horrible person.
I mean, like, obviously anyone who kidnaps, like, you're a fucking terrible person.
Yeah.
But, like, why?
He like, kept journals, and he basically said he wanted, like, slaves. Like, sex slaves.
Well, that's not what you do.
Yeah, but every time she got pregnant, he would force her to miscarry by, like, beating her up. And she said in her memoir she can't have kids anymore because...
No!
Yeah. And this is another, like, thing of psychological torture. He got Amanda pregnant, and he's basically fueling this, like, thing in Michelle where he would, like, make her feel shitty because the other 2 girls were, like, being looked for, and, like,
and
their
she
family...
wasn't. Right.
Yeah, and then when Amanda got pregnant, he let her keep the baby. He didn't force her to miscarry. And he forced Michelle, who, 21 years old when she was kidnapped, had no medical knowledge, forced her to deliver the baby in the basement with no tools or anything, just a plastic kiddie tub, no, like, towels, nothing. And basically was like, if the baby dies, I'm killing you. So when the baby came out, it wasn't breathing, and she had to, like, give it CPR. But she ended up successfully delivering the baby. It lived. And the baby was named Jocelyn, and the baby called Amanda Mommy and called Castro Daddy, and, like, basically had some freedom. Like, he allowed the kid to, like, play in the yard and, like, go to the park and stuff like that. I think he told some people that the baby was, like, his granddaughter, but told other people that it was, like, he had a girlfriend and it was his girlfriend's daughter. And then some people, I think he just was like, yeah, this is my kid.
Oh, my God.
So, on May 6th, 2013...
That's a long time.
Yeah, they were... when was Michelle taken? Michelle was taken in 2002.
So she's been there for 11 years.
She was there for 11 years.
Jesus Christ.
It was 11 years, 10 years, 9 years.
So she was, like, what, 32 when she got out? Oh, my God.
So after being in the house for 10 years, Amanda saw that one of the doors that leads to the, like, front door was unlocked. And she almost didn't leave because, as I said, he had been, like, conditioned them.
Yeah.
But Jocelyn had told her that Daddy went to Grandma's. And she was like, okay, why would... Like, she has no reason to lie. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. So, she ran out the door and saw... But the front door was locked from the outside. So she started, like, banging on the front door and, like, screaming. And a neighbor, Charles Ramsey, came and was like...
What up, bro?
You okay?
Yeah.
Open the door. And she was like, I can't, it's locked. So he helped break down the door and took her to his house, which is right next door, and she called the police. And I'm going on a mini tangent. In the documentary I watched, it, like, played the 911 call. The fucking, what are they called? The dispatcher was such an asshole. She was like, she got on the phone, and obviously she was, like, freaking the fuck out. And she was like, hi, I need the police, I'm Amanda Berry. And she was, like, saying her name over and over again because she's been watching herself on TV, so she, like, knows people are looking for her. And the police officer's like, do you need police, fire, or ambulance? And she's like, fucking police, I've been kidnapped. And, like, he's just like, they're coming. Like, the most, like, does not give a shit about what is happening. Anyway, so Charles Ramsey gives this, like, interview.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny and it, like, went viral briefly. But so after the police showed up and then they entered the house and then they found Michelle and Gina and then everybody got taken to the hospital. And I think Amanda and Gina were let out the next day, but Michelle had to stay for, like, a while because she got, like, everybody in the house basically was like, yeah, like, Michelle got, like, all the beating.
She got the worst of it.
Yeah, so what they were, like, saying was that Michelle kind of became his outlet for, like, his anger.
Yeah.
Whereas the other two were more sexual.
Well, I think also, like, it also is a fact of that he became close with the other two's families. So, like, it was also, like...
Yeah.
He was like, I can't really hurt them. Because, like, yeah, I'm, like, raping them and whatnot. But, like, I can't physically hurt them because, like, I'm friends with their family. Like, it's unforgivable. Even though, like, you fucking kidnapped their kid.
Yeah, he was still, like, beating them and stuff, but just probably not as hard.
Not as severe, yeah. Not pushing him downstairs.
Anyway, he pled not guilty, but he was sentenced to life in prison without parole plus 1,000 years.
Oh my god! They were like, they're like, I don't care what you plead. You're gone.
Yeah, but 1 month into his sentence, he killed himself.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, he was found hanging in his jail cell.
I mean, it would be one thing if, like, someone else killed him. Like, I'd be like, alright, poetic justice. But you don't get to fucking pussy out and kill yourself. I'm sorry.
Some people said that they thought that he wasn't trying to kill himself and that it was, like, an erotic asphyxiation type thing, but I think he killed himself. Because they had found his, like, journals, and he was in his journals, he was saying, like, I'm a monster.
I mean, no, 100%. Yeah,
and
you
he
are.
was saying, like, if I die, all of my money goes to the girls, and it's like...
What money? You're in prison. You're in prison until you rot, and then some.
Anyway, a few months after the girls were found, the house was demolished.
Good.
So that's at least a little
poetic justice. Someone gets... I mean, like, but also, like, you try to mount... Like, what those... Like, those girls are fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, 100% hands down, those girls are fucked up for the rest of their life.
Like, basically so much of their life was taken, and they were just, like...
Yeah, like, one girl wasn't, like...
For...
How old was Gina?
14.
So, like, she was in, like...
Her entire, like...
Middle school. Like, her entire, like, high school, like, becoming an adult, like, all of that.
Yeah.
Gone. So and all of a sudden, she's 25.
She was 23 when she got out.
Oh, yeah, you said 10 years for her, so yeah.
9 years for her.
Oh, yeah.
He
so, like,
basically took a girl a year.
11, yeah. So, like, she's 23. Like, she missed almost as much of her life as she had been alive.
Yeah.
Trapped inside a house.
That's crazy. I can't imagine being 14 years old and being taken into a house by, like, a fucking scary old man.
Yeah, and then, like, being beaten by them.
Yeah, and it was crazy because while he had them up there, he had, like, people over to the house. Like, he would, like, entertain people, and he would just, like, play the music really loud. And
so if they, like, tried to, like, scream or anything, they wouldn't hear it.
Yeah, but he would also be like, if you make any noise when people are here, after they leave, I will fucking kill you.
I mean, it'd be worth it. Not, like, to get killed, but, like, to try and...
Yeah, but at that point, like...
They were so conditioned, they were like, it's pointless.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a fun story. But they're all okay now. And
I mean, they're alive, at least.
Yeah.
Like, mentally, they're probably fucked up, but, like, at least they're alive.
Yeah, it has, I mean, not, like, a happy ending.
But it has a better ending than mine are.
Yeah.
Because no one gets found in mine.
Oof, let's go.
Okay, so mine aren't, like, one consecutive story. I found a, like, website online that has, like, 33 missing person cases that are unsolved. I'm just going to read however many I feel like. I'm not going to say last names because I'll butcher them. Mm-hmm. So we're going to just say first names and go with it. So in the 90s, a girl by the name of Heather was sunbathing in Kentucky on the side of the Ohio River near Evansville, Indiana, and a witness was watching from across the river through a telescope. Presumably, like, he was creeping on her, but, like, he gets a pass because he's a witness for what happens next. When, out of the woods...
He could have been bird watching.
Yeah, but probably not. When out of the woods behind her, a man walked up, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her back to the woods. To this day, no one knows what happened to her, or who took her, but there's a lot of, like, conspiracy theories. Some of them are, like, really plausible, but, like, no one knows what happened. She's still missing.
That's crazy.
Just girl sunbathing in Kentucky. Or in Indiana.
Gets grabbed?
Yeah, and just dragged by her hair into the fucking woods.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
So this next girl, Aisha, was a 9-year-old in 2000. She packed her backpack with multiple sets of clothes the night before she went missing, and early the next morning around 4 a.m. she left her home in North Carolina, and it was raining, really heavy wind outside, and I guess she was, like, running away or whatever. A motorist, or I'm assuming a driver, like someone driving. I remember I know red motorcycle, but it's raining. I doubt they're riding a motorcycle. Yeah. Noticed her walking along the highway and, like, turned around. Like, be like, hi, there's a 9-year-old at 4 a.m. just chilling on the highway. And so she runs into a wooded area. And then later, her backpack is found at a construction site near where she entered the woods, but her body has never been found.
I think I heard about that story.
And this was 19 years ago at this point. So she'd been, 28? If she was alive? But she probably isn't. No 9-year-old can survive 19 years in the woods.
Yeah, but it's like, where did she go?
I mean, there's a chance someone took her and she's with someone. Like, they could have gotten kidnapped.
That's true.
And, like, someone just keeping her in a basement. But, like, because her backpack was found, like, underground. Like, it was unearthed at a construction site. So, like, they were digging at a construction site and found it. So that means, like...
somebody buried it.
Yeah, or it just, like, got buried over time, but more than likely someone buried it.
Yeah.
But who knows? So, alright. I can pronounce this girl's last name, so I'm going to. Tara Calico. Ooh, this one's a long one. On September 20th, 1988, in Belen, New Mexico, she went for her daily bike ride, but never came back. Who the fuck was on daily bike rides?
Fit people.
Well, can't relate. Her mom actually used to accompany her on these rides, but stopped because she felt like she was being stalked by a driver. Okay, sorry, first of all, don't let your daughter keep doing it. And she tried to get Tara to carry mace, but Tara refused. Your daughter's a dumbass. Sorry, she's dead probably, so, like, I can't...
Jesus Christ.
Shouldn't talk ill of the dead, but, like, damn, she's dumb.
Don't talk ill of the missing.
She's probably dead. I'll get to that. She tried to get Tara to carry mace, but she refused, and that day her mom set out to look for her along the trail but didn't find her, but found pieces of her Walkman and cassette tape, because, again, it was the 80s. Several
pieces of it, so it was, like, crushed?
Yeah. Some people saw her riding her bike, but the bike was never been found. But no one witnessed her abduction, but they did see a light-colored pickup truck following her. On June 15th, 1989, so almost a year later, a Polaroid photo of a young woman and a boy bound and gagged was found in a convenience store parking lot in Florida. So, like, they were in New Mexico when this happened. They found this in Florida. And the photo was thought to have been taken after May 1989 because the type of film would not have been available until then. Tara's mom thought the woman in the photo was Tara, given a similar scar on her leg from a car accident, and the boy was thought to be missing Michael Henley, who was also in New Mexico, but that was found to be untrue because his remains were later found in a forest a few miles from a campsite from which he had disappeared in the 90s. More photos have surfaced of a female bound and gagged, but haven't been released to the public. And the female in the photo has been suspected to be Tara, but the boy remains to be unidentified, and they know nothing about it besides the fact they found pictures of them.
That's so creepy.
We don't even they aren't even here's the picture of them that they found.
Yeah.
Bound and gagged. But again.
Wait, so how long after she went missing they found the photo?
Almost a year.
Okay.
So she went missing September 20th, 1988, and June 15th, 89, it was found.
Damn.
And it was believed to be a very recent picture, taken in May, because that type of film had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Interesting.
it could be, they believe that she's not dead, that she's out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But she hadn't been found. Ooh, I love this one.
Is this the elevator girl?
Yeah.
Oof.
Elisa Lam.
They found her.
Good. Well, then, fuck.
I'll tell you where they found her after.
Okay. So, it's a really creepy video. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, no, I've seen this video. I've seen this one. I remember what happens. Just kidding. I forgot. I read it again. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Anyway, so the video's really weird because, it looks like she's talking to someone.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, it's a video of a girl in an elevator, and she keeps, popping out of the elevator, then going back in, and then,
hiding in the corner, and it looks like she's talking to someone just out of frame with the security camera. But it also looks like at certain points, the footage, cuts out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So
it looks, ghostly, almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's, creepy.
It's really creepy. She's staying alone at this hotel in downtown LA, and she disappears. But then a few weeks later, a few days later.
I don't remember how long.
A certain time has passed later. Guests complain that the water tastes weird and has a weird color to it.
This is the grossest thing.
I would absolutely kill myself. And they found her body inside a water container locked from the outside, which there's so many different reasons as to why I think they ruled it as suicide.
But why would she kill herself in a water container?
Exactly. And it was, and how did she get inside of it? Because it was locked from the outside. And, she had to climb up into it, and, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The whole story, it's, so many different, fishy details as to what the fuck happened, and,
It's also just disgusting.
Oh, no, 100%. If I'd, learned that I was drinking decomposing body water.
I hope that hotel got sued.
Yeah.
I would be hi, you're paying for my stomach pump. Thanks.
You're paying for my therapist bill also, because I just drank a dead person.
Yeah.
And
now I'm a cannibal, and I have to deal with that for the rest of my life.
What if that's what sparked someone's cannibalism? Jeffrey Dahmer was there. I don't think the timeline matches.
I don't think that's how time works. Jeffrey Dahmer's also a time traveler.
Spoiler alert. Okay. Brandon Lawson ran out of gas on the highway in the middle of the night and called his brother to come help him. Shortly after, he called 911 and reported that someone had chased him into the woods and he needed help.
Ooh.
Police, obviously.
Yeah.
And then so eventually, it doesn't say how much time passed, his brother and one police officer, only one fucking officer came. The rest were I'm tired, fuck you, we'll find you in the morning. Arrived at the scene, and find his truck abandoned. There's no sign of Brandon. So Brandon calls his brother and says he's bleeding and is 10 minutes away from his truck. But that was the last time he ever was heard from, and all the searches turned up empty.
What the fuck? Did they find his truck?
Yeah, they found the truck. They found the truck on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he was 10 minutes away from the truck, and there's no sign of him.
That's fucked up.
Okay, this is the disappearance of Susan Powell.
I hate the stories where it's somebody just went missing, but there's no story, where it's where did they go? Why was someone following them? We don't even know.
Yeah, because he calls and they got chased into the woods,
mm-hmm.
and then he calls his brother while his brother's at the truck and says, "I'm 10 minutes away from the truck and I'm bleeding." So it's
if somebody is missing and they call you, don't hang up.
Yeah, literally. Also that, but was it actually Brandon who called him? Or, like, the person who attacked him and was, like, trying to get his brother to come too, and then, like, saw the police and was like, oh, shit, police.
But wouldn't you know your brother's voice?
I mean, if, like, you could attribute it to stress or adrenaline or, like, the phone warping it. Like, it could be a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So this is, like, a quote about Susan Powell. Like, the whole story is a quote. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna... It's in, like, first person, but it's not... I don't remember any of this. I remember reading about the disappearance of Susan Powell in a similar thread a few months back. It's a wild story. Husband and wife with 2 young sons have a bad marriage. He's abusive and controlling. And at one point, they had to move because the husband's father was in love with the wife.
What the fuck?
Ooh, don't like that. And then things get so bad that she starts to fear for her life. And then one night, the whole family disappears. Only to have the husband come back a few days later saying that he and the boys went camping and had no idea where the wife was. As the investigation into what happened to the wife goes on, the husband acts more and more suspiciously and eventually moving the kids to live with his father that they moved away from in the first place. But then he loses custody of the kids because the father got caught with a bunch of child porn and creeper shots of Susan, like, of her, like, undressing and shit. Mm-hmm. Finally, during a supervised visit, the husband grabs his sons from the social worker, holds himself up inside his house, and then blows it up, killing himself and both the kids. They never solved the mystery of what happened to Susan, and she is still listed as missing, even though, like, although she's presumed murdered and dumped by her husband somewhere.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one was sad.
Oof.
Okay. The Jameson family. Mm-hmm. Where, 2 adults, 1 young daughter, they were interested in purchasing a plot of land in Oklahoma. They drive their pickup truck out to check it out, and the truck is later found abandoned. Inside the truck, they find $32,000 of cash, along with their IDs, wallets, phones, and a GPS. Along with the family dog that was extremely malnourished. Mm-hmm. And then they find a camera with the last picture on it of their 6-year-old daughter, Madison, who looks somewhat distressed, like she's, like, freaking out. And then security footage is uncovered with the family appearing trance-like and not speaking to one another.
Oh.
So they're just, like, staring straight ahead, like, not saying anything, acting weird as fuck. Years later, they find their skeletal remains dumped less than 3 miles from where the pickup truck was discovered, and they show no signs of struggle or anything. The Sodder children disappearance. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1945, don't know why I said December 24th, Christmas Eve was good enough, but there we go.
Christmas Eve,
December 24th.
The one on December 24th.
Not the one on December 26th.
Yeah.
Common misconception. A fire destroyed the Sodder home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. At the time, it was occupied by George, his wife, Jenny, and 9 of their 10 children. Jesus fucking Christ. During the fire, George,
some people like kids.
Jenny, and 4 of the 9 children escaped, but the bodies of the other 5 had never been found. The fire was blamed on faulty wiring. However, one of the jurors involved in the inquest had at one point threatened George, saying his house would burn and his children destroyed.
One of the jurors?
Mm-hmm.
The fuck?
Mm-hmm. The Sodders continue to question the official findings about the fire, and they wonder why, if it had been caused by an electrical problem, the Christmas lights had remained on through the fire's early stages when the power should have gone out.
Yeah.
A telephone repairman told them that their house's phone lines had not been burned through in the fire, as they had initially thought, but cut by someone who had been willing and able to climb 14 feet up the pole. So they cut the phone lines.
That's crazy.
And then a missing ladder that was...
Why would someone want to kill a bunch of kids?
I don't know.
I'm
assuming the dad did something and, like, they wanted revenge, but it doesn't say.
Yeah.
A missing ladder belonging to them was found at the bottom of an embankment soon after the incident. A man who neighbors had seen stealing a block and tackle from the property around the time of the fire was identified and arrested. He admitted to theft and claimed he had been the one who cut the phone line, thinking it was the power line, but denied having anything to do with the fire. However, no record identifying him exists, and why he would want to cut any utility lines to the Sodder house while stealing the block and tackle have not been explained. Mm-hmm. Jenny, the wife, also had trouble accepting Morris's belief that all traces of the children's body had been completely burned in the fire. Many of the household appliances had been found, still recognizable in the ash, and a local crematorium was also like, yeah, there's no way the bodies were burned completely through.
Yeah. That would have to be, like, ridiculously hot.
Yeah. And, like, for a ridiculously long period of time. Like, I think crematoriums, like, whenever they cremate a body, like, they burn it for, like, a good while.
Yeah.
And even then, there's still fragments that don't burn completely. Like, I've never seen ashes, but I've heard, like, whenever you look at them, there's, like, chunks in it. Like, bones and whatever.
Well, I know what's interesting is that human ash, like, clumps.
Mm-hmm. It also, yeah, and it looks and behaves differently than, like, a regular ash.
Because I read this story on Twitter.
God.
About this. It was, like, kind of sad, but it was this girl talking about how her dad had died, like, a decent amount of time ago, like, to the point where, like, obviously they were still, like, upset about it, because, like, that's your dad, but, like, they weren't, like, they were kind of, they had, like, grieved, and they were,
right,
like,
they had their moment.
Yeah, so they're, like, okay with it now. So, but they said that the ashes had, like, clumped together, but they needed them to, like, their dad had wanted them to, like, spread the ashes somewhere, but they weren't able to go there for a long time. So then when they were finally able to go, and they looked at the ashes, they had, like, all clumped together, so they had to, like, chisel.
Oh my god. Don't mind me, just chiseling my dad.
Yes, they were like, go take a chunk of dad from
the urn. Also, the truck failed to start. And so someone believes, like, the dad believes that the truck had also been messed with.
Uh-huh.
Probably by the same man who stole the stuff and cut the phone line.
Yeah.
And the only bone fragments that were ever found were a few human vertebrae fragments, although they were confirmed to have never been exposed to fire.
So they burned down the house as, like, a cover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's just, I don't understand, like, why? Like, I get it, like, sometimes there's never a reason why, but...
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last one.
Okay.
Mara Murray. Mara Murray, born May 4th, 1982, disappeared on the evening of February 9th, 2004, after a car crash on Route 112 in Woodsville, New Hampshire, a village in Haverhill.
Haverhill.
I know absolutely nothing about New Hampshire, so if y'all are from New Hampshire, that's where you're from. Her whereabouts remain unknown. She was a nursing student completing her junior year at the University of Massachusetts Amherst at the time of her disappearance. On the afternoon of Monday, February 9th, before she left the campus, she emailed her professors and work supervisor writing that she was taking a week off due to a death in the family. This claim could not be corroborated by her family. At 7:27 p.m., a local woman reported a car accident on a sharp corner of Route 112 adjacent to her home. A passing driver who also lived nearby stopped at the scene and asked the woman driving the car if she needed assistance. She declined, claiming that she had called roadside assistance already. Upon arriving home several minutes later, the driver reported the accident to emergency services, and at 7:46 p.m., law enforcement arrived at the scene, but the woman had disappeared. So, it's believed that she may have done it intentionally, and she was able to avoid the law, like, because, like, the cops got there and she was gone.
Yeah.
Or whoever did it, they were also able to avoid the law by a few minutes, and she's never been found. And it's so weird. It's odd because, like...
Aliens.
But it's also, like, why did she email her professors in her job saying that she had a death in the family when her family was like, no one died?
I mean, though, I know that sometimes people will use that as a
get out of jail free card whenever they need to do things. And so that's fair.
So they're like, I need to go, but my job and my classes aren't going to let me go, so I'm going to pretend that somebody died because then they won't question.
Okay, so fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
So at 7:46 police were arrived, and at between 8 and 8:30 p.m., a contractor returning home saw a young woman moving quickly on foot eastbound on Route 112, about 4 to 5 miles east of where her vehicle was discovered. Mm-hmm. He noted that she was wearing jeans, a dark coat, and a light-colored hood. He didn't report it to police immediately due to his confusion of dates, and was like, shit, was that the same night as her disappearance? I don't fucking know.
So he was like, it might have been, but also it might have been a couple days later.
Yeah, exactly. A rag believed to have been a part of Murray's emergency roadside kit was discovered stuffed into her tailpipe of the car. Mm-hmm. And they only referred to her as missing at 12 p.m. the next day, almost 24 hours after her last confirmed sighting. And now it's a cold case. She's been on 2020 and this show called Disappeared,
Mm-hmm.
and they did she was a documentary series in Oxygen, and they described her disappearance as the first crime of the social media age because it was several days after the launch of Facebook.
Interesting.
And so they were like, the first social media disappearance.
Even though it has nothing to do with social media.
Absolutely not, no. She's been missing for 15 years, 2 months, and 5 days.
That's crazy how people can just, like, disappear.
Up and vanish. It's fucking aliens, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a few stories on people who got found, people who didn't get found. If you are these people and you're listening, call your loved ones. They miss you.
Yeah, go home, dude. Like...
It's been a minute. You're allowed to go home now.
Yeah.
And if you can't go home, call the police. If you can't call people, how are you listening to this podcast?
I wonder how many people are missing, but they're not missing. You know, like
they're missing, but they don't want to be found.
They ran away from home.
Yeah, but their parents are like, "Hi, please come home." Like at this point, if it's been more than 2 years, just tell them. Tell them where you are.
Yeah, be like...
Give them the peace of mind at least. You know.
So that's our advice for all of you who are
Runaways.
Technically missing. Stop being missing.
Like even if you don't like your family, you don't like your loved ones, like they deserve the peace of mind knowing that you aren't murdered in a ditch somewhere.
That's true.
Like, so that's our PSA. That's Kath.
That's Chris.
And this is our podcast. See you next week.
Stay spooky, y'all.